During a career counseling meeting, Yukina learns that she is currently failing at Tateyama International High School, although determined to visit Mars someday. After school, Yukina and Mika go to the United Nations Kurobe Laboratory, a research facility where their parents work. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Defense detects a meteorite heading for Japan that divides between Toyama and Nagano as it enters the atmosphere. Minoru shows Yukina a large black cube and a gigantic geoframe found while excavating for the Kiribi Dam 60 years ago. Suddenly, one of the meteorite fragments crashes near the United Nations Kiribi Laboratory. A huge rose-colored geoframe called the Headless and small geoframes called Cactuses appear. The research facility dispatches shield-like geoframes called Dwarves to battle the Cactuses, while director Hiromi authorizes pilot Tom and navigator Liu Shinmei in the Gauze One to fight the Headless. Yukina opens the cube after touching a glowing red panel, revealing Kennosuke, a naked man who kneels and calls her princess. He relentlessly defeats one of the cactuses that enters the building, while Tom and Shinmei manage to defeat the Headless outside. Kennosuke is then subdued by 6 security guards. In the past, Princess Yukihime inquires about people who live in foreign lands beyond the sea. In the present, a huge geoframe called the Yellow Crab lands on the coast and heads towards the shore accompanied by many cactuses. Major Arthur Graham detects the landing of more hostile geoframes in other countries worldwide. Hiromi goes with Dr. Jules Hausen to interrogate Kennosuke, but Kennosuke manages to escape and take Yukina, but soon realizes she is not the princess. He calls upon the cube, which transports them to the underground storage, keeping the gigantic geoframe called the Black Relic. The cube docks with the Black Relic, which Kennosuke activates as the pilot and uses to smash out of the facility with Yukina on board as the navigator. The defense forces attack the Yellow Crab with little effect, while Hiromi orders the defense forces not to attack the Black Relic. Kennosuke and Yukina attack the Yellow Crab, but they become surrounded by 4 sword-wielding geoframes called Ogres. After Kennosuke and Yukina defeat the Ogres, they prepare to destroy the Yellow Crab, but Tractor Beam the Sky takes it up to an alien mothership instead. Yukina says that nothing is known about the Black Relic, other than Kennosuke naming it Koromakoro. 60 years ago, the cube and the Black Relic were discovered near the Kiribi Dam, where the United Nations built a large research facility to study them. In the present, Graham and Rita Farah confirm that the cactuses are unmanned. Despite the Black Relic immobilized and Kennosuke being captured by the United Nations forces, he escapes custody again until Sophie tackles him before 2 security guards activate a shock collar around his neck. Akushi talks to Kennosuke, learning that he was just a soldier assigned to fight against the mythical invaders called Ogres. Kennosuke later uses a diversion by Koharu Shirahane to escape yet again and take her to the mountains. However, a cactus appears and abducts Koharu. Kennosuke returns to the research facility and calls upon the cube, taking Yukina on board as they pursue. Although Kennosuke's sword breaks during the battle, Tom and Shinmei fortunately arrive to destroy the cactus and rescue Koharu. Kennosuke finally accepts that he is now in the future upon seeing a cliff split in half during a battle in the past. Kennosuke has dinner with Yukina, Koharu, and Yakushi, trying modern rice and curry for the first time. The Ministry of Defense analyzes that 6 giant geoframes have landed across the world, but only Japan was able to defeat one. The geoframes appear to be searching for something rather than attacking. Later, Yukina takes Kennosuke to the Tateyama Mall where he marvels at the strange new world. They encounter 2 reporters who remember that Yukina's father Takehito Shirahane advocated a bizarre theory before his disappearance about the legend of ogres in association with aliens. After evading the reporters and returning home, Yukina shows Kennosuke a notebook written by Takehito about the ogres, including a passage on the extermination of the Washiba clan by a mysterious unknown power. The notebook also contains a candid blurred image that Kennosuke recognizes as the ogre that attacked him and Yukihime 450 years ago. Yukina goes to school only to be horrified when Kennosuke has been enrolled as a student. 40 hours ago, Kennosuke and Yukina were stationed by the United Nations Kiribi Laboratory, where they are the only ones who can operate the Black Relic since it implanted them with nanomachine channels. Kennosuke painted a rough sketch of an ogre that the United Nations can use for identification. Graham introduced Kennosuke and Yukina to Tom, Shinmei, Sophie, and Sebastian. In the present, Kennosuke struggles with modern school life, while Paula and Giro transport the Black Relic to Tateyama. North American Aerospace Defense Command detects another object launched from the alien mothership heading for Tateyama. As 3 hostile geoframes land near the town, the Gauss crew prepare to be mobilized while Kennosuke and Yukina reach the Black Relic in the impending battle. While inside the Black Relic at the Tateyama airport, Kennosuke and Yukina duel against the Yellow Crab, but the 2 Headlesses attack the Black Relic from behind. Meanwhile, Judite and Ryota leave the school to approach the battle site as the citizens are evacuating. The Gao's crew deploy their units and arrive to engage the Headlesses, managing to destroy them. Kensuke and Yukina struggle to defeat the yellow crab due to its high-output gravity shield, but they finally manage to destroy it. A pilot encased in armor emerges from the wreckage of the yellow crab and removes his helmet, surprisingly having a human appearance. He announces himself as Hito, a border reform officer for the extraterrestrial organization Dorg. Then, Hito asks Kensuke, wielder of the large humanoid geoframe Grongal, why he betrayed Dorg. Lastly, Hito detonates the yellow crab with him inside, causing a devastating explosion. Following Hito's death in the yellow crab, the United Nations Kurobe laboratory assesses that the geoframes that landed in various parts of the world are confirmed to be related to the Black Relic of 450 years ago. Kensuke mentions that the Black Relic was stolen by Yukihime, and he still seeks revenge for the destruction of the Washiba clan. While on the way to school, Kensuke and Yukina learn from Carlos that Junde and Ryoto have gone missing. On the Dorg spaceship, the Gezen Rico Company, people dressed in battle armor, discuss their strategy of gathering pieces of the legendary Pivot Stone. They send Earth a demanding message for the return of the Black Relic. After having an argument with Hiromi, Yukina leaves the house the next morning. Paula and Giro discover that the Black Relic can absorb nearby mass in order to repair itself. As Hiromi and Graham decide that it is best not to hand over the Black Relic to Dorg, Hiromi receives a call from Koharu that Yukina is gone. It turns out that Yukina is secretly sulking at Mecha's house. Meanwhile, Junde and Ryoto return to school unharmed, but they are scolded by Takakuma for live streaming the battle at the airport. Elizabeth Beth Butler informs Graham that a geoframe called the Long Arm was discovered in North America and has returned to the Dorg spaceship with an unknown object. After returning home from school, Kensuke overhears from Yakoshi's phone call that Yukina went to Kurowashi Valley, and he goes after her on horseback. While Yukina is searching for the Washiba clan's castle, she is attacked by a cactus. A small blue geoframe called the Liddy stops and destroys the cactus, while Yukina falls unconscious. With no reply from Earth, Dorg officer Fuzunani is dispatched to Earth's surface. The Long Arm and 4 Headlesses advance towards the Kurobe Dam. The Gauss crew are on standby. Yukina awakes inside a secret base full of old appliances, chancing upon a bloodstained notebook written by Takehito about the destruction of the Washiba clan. She faints after seeing the Liddy once again. Junde and Ryoto later find Yukina at a bus stock shelter, but Kensuke also arrives at the scene. After being retrieved by the defense forces, Kensuke and Yukina deploy in the Black Relic and attack the Long Arm and the 4 Headlesses. However, they are surrounded and caught in a tractor beam that starts to pull them towards the Dorg spaceship. The defense forces fire missiles at the hostile geoframes, which enables the Black Relic to break free. The Gauss crew arrive and defeat the Headlesses, while Kensuke and Yukina fight and defeat the Long Arm. Fuzunani emerges from the Long Arm and surrenders. Minoru, Paula, and Giro examine Fuzunani's sword, while Hiromi and Hazen scan Fuzunani's body, finding out that both are similar to those of Kensuke. Fuzunani tells Dunham and Kingsley, specialists from the Extraterrestrial Research Division, that he is a border reform officer affiliated with Dorg's Gezen Rico Company. Fuzunani says that the aim of the Gezen Rico Company is to bring prosperity to savage planets. The objects they seek are fragments of the Pivot Stone that was broken when an advanced team was wiped out 450 years ago by the Black Relic, whose wielder seemingly betrayed them. Dunham and Kingsley question Kensuke about what happened 450 years ago, but he mentions that the ogres destroyed the Washiba clan's castle, and he then fought alongside Yukihime in the Black Relic before her inevitable death. He denies being part of the Dorg's advanced team, but Dunham and Kingsley remain suspicious. Meanwhile, Fuzunani escapes from the security guards and remotely summons the Long Arm. The Long Arm makes its way towards the United Nations Kurobe laboratory and pierces a main power line with its sword. The Gauss crew deploy and intercept the Long Arm outside. Meanwhile, Fuzunani kidnaps Yukina and follows her to the excavation site, where he recognizes a Pivot Stone fragment. After they head to the deployment bridge near the Black Relic, Kensuke confronts Fuzunani in battle. Kensuke accuses Fuzunani of being Sato of the Washiba clan, but Fuzunani accuses Kensuke of being a traitor and having his memories altered. As Kensuke stabs Fuzunani in the chest, Fuzunani falls to his death, which then causes the Long Arm to collapse. Dunham and Kingsley cannot discern whether Kensuke or Fuzunani was telling the truth of their past. Yukina invites Kensuke to hike with her to the secret base where she saw her father's notebook, but all they find is a giant crater. On the Ifidorg spaceship, the Gezenrico Company retrieves another pivot stone fragment from Earth, but they are frustrated at their slow progress of collecting all the fragments. Plus, they have yet to locate the important key stone. After Kennosuke and Yukina undergo intense educational studies in the classroom, they train in the shooting range, though Kennosuke uses a sword as a substitute. In the meantime, the United Nations Kurobe Laboratory experiments with gravity control for Tom and Shenmei and the Gauze One to walk on water with limited success. By the end of summer training camp, Yukina eventually improves her fitness. Kennosuke is given back his sword and is unshackled from his shock collar. The Black Relic and the two Gauze units fight to drive a geoframe called the Spider controlled by Ifidorg officer Murasa from the urban area. The Spider is stabbed during battle, being forced to retreat and recover. Ifidorg officer Mueta attends the festival cosplay competition in her battle armor. Mueta suddenly appears on stage and stabs Kennosuke in the chest with her sword. Kennosuke is stunned to see that Mueta's face looks just like Yukihime. Before Mueta can kill the badly wounded Kennosuke, she is stopped by a masked and cloaked demon. In the meantime, Takakuma treats the wounds of Kennosuke. Mueta evades the attack by the demon and calls for her geoframe called the Medusa, which launches from the Ifidorg spaceship. Once inside the Medusa, she is immediately attacked by the Gauze crew and her units, but she manages to escape. Back at the United Nations Kurobe Laboratory, Graham briefs Kennosuke and Yukina on the current situation. Kennosuke recovers enough to pilot the Black Relic, with Yukina reluctantly behind as the navigator. Kennosuke and Yukina confront Mueta in the Medusa, who Kennosuke still believes is Yukihime. Then Murasa and the Spider arrives to join the fight, but seems to be uncoordinated with Mueta. However, the Gauze crew arrive as well and engage in battle against Murasa. The Black Relic and the Gauze units fight as a team and damage the Spider, prompting Mueta and Murasa to retreat back to the Ifidorg spaceship. Kennosuke is taken back to the United Nations Kurobe Laboratory for medical treatment following the battle against Mueta and Murasa. At school, the students show concern to Yukina about Kennosuke's condition. Meanwhile, Kennosuke has a past vision of Yukihime and the demon conferring about him when he survived. Hazen is impressed to see that Kennosuke has recovered from his near-fatal wounds through tissue regeneration. Graham informs the Gauze crew that he will prepare single-seater Gauze units, meaning that Shenmei and Sebastian are no longer navigators. On the Ifidorg spaceship, the Gezenrico Company debate their next course of action, but Mueta and Murasa seek to redeem themselves and secretly dispatch to Earth. Mueta and Murasa arrive at Kurobe Dam using atmospheric entry suits. Graham begins trial simulations on single-seater Gauze units to increase their capacity to deal with enemy geoframes. Mueta and Murasa gain entry inside the United Nations Kurobe Laboratory and disguise themselves as miners. They capture Kennosuke, who still believes that Mueta is Yukihime, but Mueta denies knowing him. They find the excavation site with the final fragments of the pivot stone. Confronted by the defense forces, Kennosuke tries to defend Mueta. However, Sophie says that he is foolish, and she vows to stay at the research facility. As they are about to leave, Murasa stabs Mueta so that she can take sole credit for the discovery. Mueta jumps from the dam wall into the rushing waters below. The Gezenrico Company notices that Ifidorg officer Emusa has descended again to Earth in order to find the 3 remaining pivot stones, including the key stone. After viewing footage of Murasa stabbing Mueta at the Kurobe Dam, Kennosuke storms out and Yukina follows him. Hiromi waits for replacement parts to arrive for the Gauze units. Kennosuke, Yukina, and the Gauze crew debate whether or not Mueta is really Yukihime. Afterwards, Kennosuke and Yukina deploy the Black Relic to search for Mueta in the river. However, Ifidorg officer Yoruba arrives in a flying geoframe called the Bluebird to check on his comrades, also shooting down a cargo aircraft carrying the replacement parts. The cargo aircraft crew managed to offload the replacement parts before crash landing, where Kennosuke and Yukina save the crew from crashing into the research facility. Yoruba finds Murasa, who lies that Mueta has already died, but he goes to find Mueta. He attacks the Black Relic in the air, but the demon attaches a winged geoframe called the Crow to the Black Relic to help Kennosuke and Yukina. Because of Kennosuke's mistrust of ogres, the demon departs but promises to assist him if needed. Yukina says that the Bluebird flies at an incredible speed, while the pilot who saves them had a familiar voice. The next day, the wounded Mueta takes refuge at the hot spring, hoping to aid her recovery. After getting lost, Kennosuke and Yukina arrive at the same hot spring. They stumble upon Mueta, and the defense forces take her into custody. Just then, a cactus appears, captures Yukina, and escapes back into orbit. Kennosuke says that the pivot stone is what the enemy is after. The pivot stone is a new artifact discovered deep inside the United Nations Kurobe Laboratory. Interrogation of a captive confirmed that the pivot stone was issued 450 years ago, but its function is unknown. The cactus returns to the Ifidorg spaceship carrying Yukina in a bioconveyance capsule, and the Gezin Rico Company believes that Yukina is Mueta. At the United Nations Kurobe Laboratory, Hassan concludes that Yukina and Mueta share the same mitochondrial DNA, and Yukina was therefore abducted by mistake. Graham relieves Sophie of her duties. Later on, Sophie sees some writing appear on the ground outside the research facility, asking if she wants to learn the truth about ogres. Hassan informs Kuromi that only Kensuke's blood sample will be able to heal Mueta. When Sophie returns to her house, the demon is waiting for her and introduces himself as Zell. As he explains that he is neither an ogre nor an earthling, he confirms that he is an enemy of Ifidorg. Kensuke begs Mueta to navigate the Black Relic to the Ifidorg spaceship, with him as the pilot, to which she agrees but cannot guarantee his return. As they prepare to leave in the Black Relic, they see a recorded message from Yukihime imploring her ancestors to fight the ogres and protect the Washima clan. Mueta then wonders more about her unknown past. After escaping captivity, Yukina realizes that she is inside the Ifidorg spaceship, but she encounters Marasa, who believes that Yukina is Mueta. After evading Marasa, Yukina manages to access Ifidorg's virtual database and learns about their plans of assembling the pivot stone. Yukina is further shocked to discover a head that resembles Yukihime. Meanwhile, Kensuke and Mueta leave the research facility in the Black Relic. At Sophie's house, Zell reveals to Sophie that Ifidorg aims for planet domination and he wants to avenge his compatriots slaughtered on his conquered planet. Before Sebastian charges inside, Zell leaves Sophie with a flash drive. Mueta requests retrieval to the Ifidorg spaceship and reports to the Gezin Rico Company. When Kensuke is detected on board, Mueta is accused of being a traitor. Kensuke and Mueta reunite with Yukina, leaving the Ifidorg spaceship in their geoframes but are pulled away from orbit. Zell and the Crow intercepts and safely carries the Black Relic and the Medusa to Earth. The research facility receives a message that the Ifidorg spaceship is descending towards the planet's surface. Yukina says that the Crow is a winged mech that saved her once again, and it does not seem to be her enemy. The Black Relic and the Medusa return to Earth assisted by Zell, but Mueta is consequently arrested. Zell states that Yukihime died 450 years ago and Mueta is a replica based on her genetic information. He further explains that Ifidorg creates clones of the life forms that they conquer and embeds false memories in them to be loyal vanguards. He also tells Yukina that her father Takahito was a close friend. While citizens are evacuating, the Ifidorg spaceship launches multiple geoframes, including the Rockhead, the Bluebird, and the Spider. Zell attaches the Crow to the Black Relics so Kensuke and Yukina can confront Yoruba. Tom, Shenmei, and Sebastian engage Musa and Marasa and the Headlesses on the ground using single-seater gauze units. As the battle grows fierce and the research facility soon breached by the Headlesses, the Ifidorg spaceship drops May cactuses, which release electronic parasites that take control of some of the staff. Sophie gets her friends to rescue Mueta from an overturned van, while Sebastian sacrifices himself in an attempt to destroy the Spider. Kensuke and Yukina and the Black Relic pick up Tom and his gauze one, and they depart from the overrun research facility. Kensuke, Yukina, as well as the close-knit students and the remaining staff who evacuated from the research facility, retreat to the high school, which has become the new base of operations. The entire region is completely isolated from the rest of the world because of the barrier created by Ifidorg. When Kensuke, Yukina, and Mueta stop by Yakushi's home to visit Kuromi and Koharu, Zell appears and explains how he met and befriended Takahito many years ago, shortly before Takahito died from a sudden avalanche. Meanwhile, Ifidorg manages to excavate the pivot stone from Kurobi Dam's underground excavation site, using the mind-controlled staff as slaves. The pivot stone draws in surrounding heat, icing the area and provoking a snowstorm over Kurobi Dam. Mueta, having finally accepted the fact that she is a replica with false memories, escapes from the base of operations. Yukina collapses in the snow while searching for Mueta. However, Mueta finds Yukina, taking refuge in a cabin. Before Kensuke reaches them, Mueta reveals that Ifidorg plans to use the pivot stone to create a wormhole between Earth and its homeland, enabling a correctional fleet to storm the planet and subjugate it. In the base of operations, Zell and the research facility staff consider their limited options concerning the pivot stone while the barrier is intact. As Kensuke, Yukina, and Mueta join the classroom, Mueta then explains about the correctional fleet soon storming through a wormhole. Meanwhile, the Gezin Rico Company extracts the completed pivot stone and ascends it above the Ifidorg spaceship. Yukina says that the Ifidorg spaceship is where the border reform officers live, is pretty big and is filled with strange machines. It is Ifidorg's standard amphibious spaceship loaded with 90 spacecraft, including the commander craft. Muetta decides to fight alongside the humans. While Graham asks Sophie to pilot the Gauss-1, Kenosuke and Yukina promise to protect each other. The Black Relic, the Medusa, the Gauss-1, and the Crow engage the Bluebird and the Spider. Meanwhile, Graham and Hiromi lead a small group of troops to recapture the United Nations Coral laboratory from the cactuses, managing to find the unconscious mind-controlled staff and reboot the control room. Sophie reunites with Sebastian, revealed to still be alive as he takes control of the Gauss-2. Kenosuke and Yukina defeat Yoruba, while Muda defeats Murasa. Leffel, leader of the Grezin Rico Company, then descends and unites his geoframe with the Muse's rockhead to create the giant geoframe called the Ogre. However, it is defeated executing Yukina's plan of using simultaneous attacks. Leffel returns to the Ifidorg spaceship, but ends up mortally wounded by Zell and revealed to be a clone from Zell's race. Zell uses a parasite to get Leffel to shut down the wormhole. The wounded Leffel reveals to Zell, Kenosuke, Muetta, and Hiromi that Ifidorg will send a larger correctional fleet that would reach Earth in 224 rotational periods. Leffel says that Ifidorg controls 85% of Zell's planet, which gives Zell hope that there may be a resistance movement. The Ifidorg invasion force also had received communication that some planets subjugated by them are uniting. Muetta, confirmed to be an artificial creation, learns that all border reform officers are disposed of once their job is done. Graham fears that an arms race may start after the failed invasion, while Hausen and Dunham also fear that the immortal Ifidorg clones like Kenosuke and Muetta may pose a threat to humanity. Zell tells Kenosuke, Yukina, and Muetta about when he came to Earth with others of his race to find allies and fight Ifidorg, but only found Kenosuke and Yukihime alive. The two were trained to control the captured Black Relic and defeated Ifidorg, but only Kenosuke and Zell survived the battle. In the new Climate of Suspicion, Hausen has Muetta fitted with a shock collar and Kenosuke is treated as a threat. Kenosuke resolves to travel to Zell's planet with Zell and Muetta to fight Ifidorg. Kenosuke entrusts Ryota with Yukina before leaving. As Yukina tells her classmates that Kenosuke plans to help Zell and Muetta liberate Zell's planet from Ifidorg, her classmates join her in her mission to follow Kenosuke. Outside the research facility, Mika and Carlos enlist the help of reporters as a distraction for Graham. With both the Medusa and the Black Relic locked inside the research facility, Sebastian guides Yukina, Sophie, and Junde to the Medusa. Yukina and Junde then use the Medusa to retrieve the Black Relic for Kenosuke. In the Ifidorg spaceship, Zell activates the pivot stone and opens the Ifidorg portal. Tom unsuccessfully tries to stop Kenosuke, Muetta, and Zell before they depart in the portal. However, Yukina is unable to reach the portal and is left behind. 5 years later, the Toyama Kido spaceport is open. Yukina, Sophie, and Sebastian board a spaceship with a strike force and depart for Binary Star System Chi-1 Sagittari to assist Kenosuke and Zell in the fight against Ifidorg. The end. If you enjoy this video, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more.